Hey Tony, it's Tuesday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, yeah, I've been watching Andor season one. I'm about halfway through Andor season one, but I only really watched it when everyone was in Germany, so I'm really, really behind on my Star Wars watching. I haven't watched Andor, I haven't watched Kenobi, I haven't watched all of Tales of the Underworld. I'm very, very, very far behind right now. I haven't watched Ahsoka. Unfortunately, it's just I've been working on other things and doing with other things over the past 2.5 years that I'm just really behind. So sorry, I don't really have much to add to your conversation regarding Andor. I've been really enjoyed what I've watched, but again, I'm only on I think maybe episode 4 or 5. I might be on episode 6 because they just finished the heist, and that's the episode that my last episode I watched was the end of the heist when uh, Andor went with you know Skeen and the other woman when Nemec I think died. So I'm not very far. But what I'm talking about this week is something that I'm kind of working on with a friend. So obviously, I love history. I've always loved history. And one of my good friends and I are actually wanting to do a history podcast. Well, I want to do a history project. My history podcast. My friend really wanted to help join and kind of like learn and talk through it. And I decided what I really want to do the podcast on is the Gilded Age. So the Gilded Age is something I know I've discussed in previous videos, but it was give or take 1865 to give or take 1901, and it involved America, post-war America that quickly became industrialized, which quickly led to income divides, led to robber barons and the super wealthy, and the rest. An era of heightened immigration and heightened tensions regarding both immigration and racial disparities, and things that I feel seem very familiar to the world we live in now. Now, like, the Gilded Age itself was so transformative for America. Again, like, prior to 1865, like prior to the Civil War, America was still mostly an agrarian country. Like, we were certainly kind of a regional power, but that was, even then, was like, our competition was Canada and Mexico. And Mexico, America had pretty handily defeated an imperialistic war, the Mexican-American War in the 1840s. But the Gilded Age was really, it was an era of transformation in which the country rapidly industrialized. Um, you know, Robber barons and railroad tycoons ended up taking over and had outsized political influence. It was an era of political corruption, but also an era of increased information sharing. Because the Gilded Age also, the telegraph came through the Gilded Age. Obviously, railroads were the biggest part of the Gilded Age, and you also had the creation of huge businesses in very similar way to like our tech billionaires we have now, who kind of saw this emerging tech and invested in it and became incredibly wealthy and powerful through it. And I think that, now, I've always been one, I think history has always teaches us many lessons if we want to learn. But also this sense of history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it rhymes. And I really think that we've been doing a lot. I think we've been learning an awful lot about, I guess maybe not learning an awful lot, but I think we've been seeing a lot of similarities between America of, the second half of the 19th century to America of the first half of the 21st century. I think you could even potentially argue that some of the steps that we've taken today were part of the post-World War II boom, much in the same way that much of the advancements and changes in the Gilded Age were post-Civil War. Now, the era itself got its name from actually a lesser-known Mark Twain book, and one of the only novels that Mark Twain actually co-wrote with somebody else. And it was called The Gilded Age: A Tale of Today. And it kind of it satirized obviously Mark Twain was a great satirist, But it satirized the the increasing wealth, the increasing income inequality with industrialization, but also with that very deep layer of political corruption as well. In fact, like the Gilded Age itself, the reason why that how Mark Twain came up with that name is from the process of gilding. So what gilding is when you have a thin layer of gold that is put over, usually a very dull metal, oftentimes like lead or iron or something like that, and it makes it look all shiny. But as soon as you kind of scrape off a little bit of that that covering, you kind of begin to see the rot underneath. And I think those lessons themselves are so important to what we have today, in which you can look at your tech billionaires, you can look at the lifestyles of the rich and famous that America portrays, but also like you scrape that off a little bit, and you see serious income inequality, you see serious political concerns, political like increasing political sectarianship. And I just think the Gilded Age has so much to teach us. And so myself and my friend are going to be doing this podcast. So I know a lot about the era. My friend does not know much about the era, but he loves history and loves learning. So I think it's going to be kind of neat. I've been kind of writing a few scripts that we'll kind of use as outlines as we continue doing it. But it's something that I really want to teach people about, because I think it's fascinating. But I also think it's really important to the world we live in today. And I think more education and more knowledge about it would really benefit our future leaders, because even during the era there was increasing, especially near the end, it was an increasing amount of populism, increasing amount of unequal lives, and I think it really has a lot to teach us today. So Tony, my question for you: is there an era of American history that you find incredibly fascinating? So Tony, I'll see you on Friday. Later, bro.